So, as of recent, I've been tackling a couple things in like my spiritual life, and I wanted to talk about the backwards law a little bit. And that's proposed by philosopher Alan Watts. I've been listening to Alan Watts for like 3 years at this point, I would say. And the cool thing with like Alan Watts, of course, I'm gonna try to be my most authentic self here. There's tons of facades that we all put on like to be and live in this world, but from an authentic standpoint of like Alan Watts always talks about chasing pleasure, right? And if we seek pleasure all the time, it's going to drain us and we're going to lose meaning in life because life's not about just seeking pleasure. So that's the one thing that I learned, like the backwards law, talking about Alan Watts, where he's like, if you pursue happiness, you're never going to achieve it because you're constantly pursuing it. Same with almost anything, in life, pretty much, right? It's like, if we're constantly pursuing something, even though we live in a society, right? Like, work hard for something if you want it, right? Like, if you want to become a pro basketball player, like, the only way to do that is to work hard. It's not saying just don't do anything. But as far as like chasing pleasure, chasing happiness, it's the same with relationships, man. It's like if you chase women, you know, like chasing women, if you're constantly chasing and not allowing things to come to you in this universe, you're going to get wrapped up around something, right? You're going to wrap yourself up, whether it's your emotions, whether it's, just your life in general. Like, you don't want to get wrapped up in so much stuff that you can't think straight. And that's kind of what I've been learning a lot as of recently, especially with listening to Alan Watts so much and talking about religion in a lot of spaces and just spiritualism. And the backwards law is so interesting to me because the idea of seeking a positive experience from everything is such a backwards way, and backwards is such a different way to look at it than I would say. Most people, they want a positive experience from everything, but what if you didn't set an expectation to what you were doing? Like, especially when it comes to hanging out with girls, for me, man, like, I'm not saying it's got to be some girl that I'm trying to date or anything, or even like people that you don't hang out with too much. But you know how like you can set an expectation in your head before you go on like this date, I guess you could call it. And you set that expectation in your head. You're like, yes, I can't wait until, I get to date this girl tonight, right? We're going to go on this date. And you set up all these expectations, and let's say like at the last second she flakes on you, and then you feel like emotionally dissatisfied. You already attached yourself to the outcome. It's like you shouldn't be looking at that part yet. I think to like become a stronger person, to continue to work on yourself, but also keep your emotions at bay, there's so many ways to approach this situation. Now, let's say you guys do hang out and you go out to eat. That was your first plan. Then you guys go and like stargaze, but then she's got to leave early, right? Earlier than you expected. So now you feel like you had a good time, but you're still kind of emotionally in the air with everything. And that's because you already set those expectations of like, yeah, right after we're stargazing, then we're going to go drive around for a little bit. She's going to come back over. She's going to stay the night. Bro, this is going to be a great night. I'll see her in the morning. I'll say bye. Then I'll see her next week, whatever it is. But let's say she's got to leave early and you didn't anticipate that. And that can leave you with like this empty feeling because you're constantly pursuing this idea that like happiness is already there. So that's kind of where I'm at with everything right now. Is I've been listening to so much Alan Watts as of recently. And a lot of it honestly like goes in one ear out the other a lot of the time because it's just comforting to listen to. But every once in a while he'll say something that like I attach myself to and think about for a few days at a time, and it's cool to think about the way he talks about money. I like the way that he talks about health, people, other people, and just with the idea of the backwards law of like if you pursue something constantly, it's only going to continue to run away from you. If you're constantly pursuing pleasure, that pleasure is going to eventually turn against you and it's not going to become as pleasurable, right? It's like if you give someone a cookie, they're going to enjoy that cookie. It's going to please them. It's instant gratification. But if you gave somebody all the cookies in the world and locked them in a room full of cookies, they'd have so many choices. There'd be so many cookies that wouldn't become as special anymore. They're so indulged in their pleasures that, let's say you've removed them from a room and said, hey, for staying in that room for a week with only cookies, we're going to give you a cookie as your reward. They would not think of that as a reward anymore because they're so indulged in it. So that's the important thing with like pursuing pleasure and just that whole idea, right, of just pursuing pleasure instead of just living in the moment, taking life for what it is. and kind of working through your circumstances. And yeah, like definitely enjoy, right? You want to enjoy the now. Like that's what we live for. And like that's why we're alive. That's why we prepare for our futures too, right? Especially in America. Like we prepare for our future so much because down the road, right? We want to enjoy that now too. But there are some people who live so far in the future where they're just constantly working on like my future self's going to have this that they never actually live in the now. And I think that can be a problem sometimes, but yeah, I just want to say that, but that's a way that I've kind of been thinking about life as of recent, especially with Alan Watts, man. Just he was talking about Hinduism last night and Buddhism in one of his lectures that I was listening to fall asleep. And he's talking about how God, he said some people look at God as like this big man with a white beard, right? This big white beard, and he just governs the whole universe, right? And he's like, but if you think about it, and that's kind of my perspective as of recent has been, if I think of God as like everything around us, it's like an energy form. Almost like how when you look at the sun, it's just this big heat energy, right? Like this big ball of heat energy. I kind of look at, I would say God that way as like this big just energy that's in the sky, almost like pulsating through the universe. Like I can feel it in the trees. I can feel it right now with me as I'm making this. And I have my Buddhist statues here. I study all the religions, and it's just cool. I like to take bits and pieces from everything and see how I can apply it to my life. And I think there's so much good information out there. There's so many good books. I'm currently about to start the autobiography of a yogi. I wish I had that book with me right now so I could show you guys. But it's kind of where my mind's been at lately, especially with this whole backwards law. And I've been attracting things as of recent. I've also been practicing spiritualism way more. I intermittent fast a ton, which has really helped me. So I don't know, it's just been really, really nice as of recent to listen to Watts, take in that information, and I can explain it to you guys too. And just like life's really crazy. Like there's so many different aspects to it. There's your own life, other people's lives, there's empathy. There's so much to life, man. And like I don't know if people take the time to actually sit down and look at the different areas of their life, man. We got childhood dreams, we have like responsibilities, we have reality to deal with, man. We have the past, we have the future, we have the now as of right now. And I would say most of my anxiety goes away. Like I'm just looking at the camera right now and it's like living in the now, my anxiety goes away. Talking, right? Venting, talking like this, man. A lot of my anxiety just goes away. So it's been something I've been thinking about with like the whole backwards law thing and just trying to lean into nature more instead of society, right? Even though society gives a lot of great things to us, I've been trying to lean into nature more because nature year after year always works out, right? Nature always works out because it's just nature. Like that's just the natural course. So why should I force something? I should just let nature take care of, what we got going on. So like and subscribe, comment below, and I'm keep putting some videos out like this.